This Week in Washington is coming to you on December the 12th, 2012. Earlier today I heard from Roland, who reminded me that he hadn't seen a This Week in Washington for the last several weeks, and I thought, well, that's a good reminder to do this message today. Here in Washington, we remain very concerned about the ongoing discussions on the physical cliff that we've heard so much about in the media for the last 2 or 3 weeks. As you remember and probably know, unless the administration and the Congress reach an agreement on taxes and spending, tax rates in the United States will all increase for everyone come the end of the year, and we will also have large across-the-board reductions in federal spending. This is the outcome of last summer's debt ceiling agreement. The administration and Congress are struggling to find common ground to resolve this issue. I think it's very hard to say that it will be resolved in time. The consequences for going over the cliff are, at least to me, unimaginable. There are some who will say that this will probably just be a blip, or it will just cause some momentary fluctuation in the economy. But I'm one of those people who believe, as probably many of you do, that we don't need this kind of political disruption while the economy is still struggling to recover from the terrible recession of the last several years. So it will be interesting to see how and when this issue gets resolved. One of the things that surfaced about 2 weeks ago that is of interest to us is the administration has proposed a stimulus program as part of this negotiation with the fiscal cliff. That stimulus program would provide somewhere between $50 and $100 billion for transportation investments in transportation infrastructure. We assume that would be good for all parts of the transportation industry, especially for highways and transportation issues where large investments have to be made. We're also hoping that it would include the ability to do the kinds of projects that we did in our parts of the industry during the last stimulus program. So it'll be interesting to see how this continues to evolve. In addition to that, I think that those of you who've had some exposure to some of the seminars or webinars the FTA has been doing on MAP 21 realize that we face significant limitations in the future if we're using only the MAP 21 numbers to pay for needed investments and services. We think the FTA did a really good job this week in re-looking at the numbers that were put forward in their original idea for operating cost. We think that the new numbers, being significantly higher, will provide more communities with the flexible alternatives they need to meet their transportation needs in these very demanding times. We're also appreciative of FTA's rulemaking or production of the formula for transportation for Native American communities. These numbers include a significant increase for the poorest communities within our Native American communities. This is long overdue, and we look forward to the implementation of these investments as it continues to help these communities respond to important needs, especially in the healthcare area. Speaking of healthcare, I know that many of you have been seeing lots of discussion, especially in some of your states, about the adoption of either insurance exchanges or expanded Medicaid. Those who have opted for expanded Medicaid in January will be receiving 100% reimbursement for Medicaid expenses, including transportation. This will be a significant change, and guaranteed over the next 3 years. Many states, as you know, are currently paying 40 and 50% match for Medicaid services, so this will alleviate a significant financial problem for many of them. Unfortunately, a large number of states have decided not to participate in the expanded Medicaid program or in setting up state insurance exchanges. Earlier this week, the Secretary of Health and Human Services made it perfectly clear that states would not get higher matching ratios for Medicaid unless they adopted expanded Medicaid as well as the insurance exchanges. So those who do adopt will get the rates, those who don't will not. The difficulty for us is there are significant advantages in the states that do adopt for greater transportation investments. As you know, the dual eligibility that is created that we help to work on in the Affordable Care Act will provide transportation to Medicare recipients who need services like dialysis for the first time. We know what a strain and difficulty this is for many of our members throughout the country, and the Affordable Care Act and the expanded Medicaid is one way that that gap can be closed. So we're hopeful that after January, when the dust settles around these budget concerns, that some states will have an opportunity to relook at the decisions they've made or planned, knowing that Congress is not going to reduce the amount of money available for matching under this effort. The President has made it very clear that the Affordable Care Act is not on the table as part of these negotiations, and he believes that the election has decided the issue, that the Affordable Care Act will be a part of the nation's health care future. So, as we look at January, we see continuation of uncertainty as we do not yet know how these situations will come out. In looking at next year, we could face significant challenges on our federal funding and significant issues with the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. As of today, the 12th of December, we still don't know how that's going to come out, but we do know that with the clock running, we may know something sooner rather than later. In the last several weeks, I've had an opportunity to visit our members in Georgia and see what they're doing in both the community and public transportation field. And we've also hosted a week-long training effort here on 7 targeted communities to look at new ways to bring transportation planning into a more cooperative effort with people who need services in the community. So we've been busy trying to look beyond what we face currently at solutions that might be applicable next year. Later this week, a new issue of Community Transportation Magazine will be coming to you that deals with innovation in community transportation and also looking at the future as a place of opportunity as well as challenge, as more and more people need the kind of services that only community and public transit can provide. So if we're looking at the future as a place where there is a huge and growing market for our services, we should all be happy about that. But if we're looking at it from a point of view of will we have the investments that are necessary, that's the important issue that will be decided in part during the next several weeks. In my next message, I plan to spend some time talking about the recent advantages we've come to see in the expanded 7A financial program that we're beginning to put into place thanks to the recent improved relationship we enjoy with the Small Business Administration. It's our hope that that will be one of the key ways that we find new and additional capital to help our members and all of you expand the important services we're going to need for that growing population. So, for This Week in Washington, that's it for today. When we have more news on the fiscal cliff, we'll be back in touch. Bye for now.